Poppy Playtime is not just the kind of game that you would all expect. In fact, one character is basically one of the strangest. Although her backstory was far more tragic than most of you would all think, there is this one character that basically led to the far worst, but yet this is one of the creepiest characters ever made in Poppy Playtime, and her name was Lily LoveBraids. We are diving into the lore on how Lily LoveBraids became the very character that we all know and why her existence was far more stranger than you might think. Lily LoveBraids, originally called Gracie Green in her human life, is basically Chapter 5's most unsettling character ever produced. And when the Bigger Bodies initiative ever came to this, there was this one time where the hour of joy completely goes out of hand. And in fact, the worst detail was yet to come. Gracie Green was captured by the smiling critters and was dumped into a tank of poppy gel. In fact, what is the worst thing that ever happened to Lily Lovebraids was far more crazier and creepier. The prototype actually locks her in a room with her conditioning tapes playing on the screen, and what happens next is far worse. Lily Lovebraids was turned from Gracie Green to this, a long purple hair braided doll named Lily Lovebraids, hence her name. And in fact, what most viewers were not able to recognize is that her long purple colored braids are basically similar to that of the K-pop demon hunters girl Rumi, who is actually the girlfriend of Jinu of the Saja Boys. What is exactly the connection between this? Well, it's simple. Rumi from K-pop Demon Hunters wears purple hair that are braided, and in fact, the hairstyle inspiration might have been drawn to that of Lily Lovebraid's character. And from what I can obviously notice, it is clearly possible that Lily Lovebraids might be a physical dark representation of Rumi being a demon. But here's when the clues get so more obvious. Instead of being transformed into a demon, Lily Lovebraids was considered as a creepy yet unhinged character with no simplicity of how the transformation truly happened. And in fact, what makes Lily Lovebraid so disturbing is that not only her character was deemed dangerous, it was also predictably unhinged and basically quite dark. But what's most tragic of all is that her character was placed into conditioning 122 days. But think about what that could actually mean. 122 days means 24 out of 26 years of isolation in the dollhouse. In fact, Lily Lovebraids wasn't just a convincing character of Poppy Playtime Chapter 5. In fact, the adaptation of Lily Lovebraids as this from Gracie Green was far more creepier than any other Playtime company branding doll that was ever being put onto display. Despite the positive and negative accusations of Lily Lovebraids was not really a purely saturated villain that most people would have thought. In fact, her tragic backstory of becoming Lily Lovebraids from being an employee of Playtime Co. was probably the worst kind of conditioning ever happened to a human life. When Lily Lovebraids was turned into this from Gracie Green, her original human self, that could mean one thing. The tragedy behind Lily Lovebraids wasn't just becoming a toy. She is a toy that was stripped out of a human body. And guess what? That psychological torture that she endured for almost 122 days in a week means one thing. She still survived. And guess what? Her skeleton proves it. In the dollhouse, we actually see the skeleton of Gracie Green's body. Yes, it was still pretty much kept by Lily LoveBraids, who is actually Gracie Green, formerly as a human, turned into a doll by the prototype. But what am I telling you now is something far sadder. Lily LoveBraids was not a villain. She's actually just a misguided human being who was transformed into a toy. And we can all blame it on one event that basically caused Lily LoveBraids to have birth in the first place. And that is the hour of joy. Think about it. The hour of joy is basically similar to that events of Armageddon, End of the World, and Final Destination. However, those three events never really occurred in Poppy Playtime since the movie, or should I say the game itself, was placed between 1990s and the early 2000s, and Lily LoveBraids, having conditioned for almost 122 days and psychologically tortured, doesn't mean that she's dead. She's actually still alive, not as a human, but as a living, walking, talking doll with no means of returning back to her human life. And guess what? When Lily LoveBraids says this final quote, it means something else. And in fact, I quoted this line that she was basically saying, "I let you into my house, I let you come to my tea party, and this is how you repay me." And in fact, that line alone doesn't mean something. It means one thing. She wasn't angry. She wasn't just trying to push you into becoming a toy. That is her own anger spilling out right into our faces just in the nick of moments and clearly a minute of seconds before she died. And guess what? That quote, "I let you into my house, I let you come to my tea party, and this is how you repay me," is not just a villainous breakdown. That's basically tragedy itself. When tragedy becomes some kind of memory that many people have endured, that line, "I let you come into my house, I let you come to my tea party, and this is how you repay me," that is not just tragedy. That's tragedy transforming from sadness to rage. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person Lily was just trying to be angry. Lily wasn't just angry at us. She was basically angry because of how humanity and human life, turning her from a doll as an originally human being, was far worse. And in fact, her quote, "I let you come to my house, I let you come to my tea party, and this is how you repay me," is not just a sad villainous quote that the villain is breaking down in tears. That's just Lily becoming completely enraged that her human life was taken away because of the prototype. And guess what? Lily's conditioning to becoming Lily LoveBraids wasn't out of fear or regret. That is basically regret soon transforming herself into anger and isolation. Not only the isolation makes it worse, it made Lily so angry that she basically blames us human beings for betraying her, for not even seeing how cruel the prototype really was. And in fact, that detail alone wasn't just terrifying. It's not a tragic scenario that has been playing. It's a sign of regret, fear, and anger caused by isolation and loneliness. Lily wasn't just alone. She was just hurt by how others treated her. And guess what? That quote alone wasn't just her frustration. That is just anger. So that means one thing. Her anger wasn't just about losing her human life. It's human life turning their backs against the very being that basically made Playtime companies' toys become toys out of humans. That is just Lily forcing her anger out on the human society. So that means one thing. The human nature that made the Toys and Playtime Company wasn't just toys themselves. It was humanity making monsters. And guess what? Poppy Playtime and Stephen King's book The Mist shows us that the monsters that are around us are not the monsters outside of human nature. That is human nature becoming the monsters. And guess what? When The Mist released in 2007, we realized one thing. That movie told us that human nature is the monstrosity we accidentally created, not by force, not by regrets, but that is the kind of punishment human beings suffered worse than death. And in fact, the movie The Mist and Poppy Playtime all make one colloquial sense of rightness of what we humans are. We are the humans who basically turn ourselves into monsters with regret, isolation, loneliness, rage, and frustration against the society that we once created but soon destroy it. And guess what? When society called us monsters, we are the responsibilities that caused its downfall of humanity. And Lily Lovebraids was right. She wasn't just sad or tragically alone. She was just angry. And guess what? When she becomes angry at how human life treated her, it just becomes far worse. And that is exactly how Lily Lovebraids was made. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you go comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.